In this lesson, you'll use the backup file that you created in the previous lesson to restore your website to another server or to another location on your same server. In this way, you can test and validate your backup files and make sure that your backup procedures and tools are working as required. Joomla is an amazingly complex technology. It can break in 1,000 ways. There are over 44,000 files in your web server, many thousands more in Joomla itself, and hundreds in your template. You can kind of get an appreciation for this complexity by poking around your Bitnami Joomla server stack. If you open up, for example, the Apache 2 folder and start looking around, you'll see there are hundreds of folders and files in here. Sometimes all it takes is one bad parameter in a single line of code in just one of these thousands of files to break your site completely. Sometimes changing a single site setting will cause errors to pop up or cause some things to stop working. Other times, adding new extensions will break your site completely. Joomla will show a blank screen or some unintelligible errors, or won't load at all. Sometimes you can fix the problem by quickly undoing whatever you did to break Joomla in the first place. However, often enough, the quickest and easiest way to move forward is just to start over by restoring a new site from a recent backup. As a Joomla beginner, these things are even more likely to happen since you're still learning and some things are still unfamiliar and new to you. This is why regularly backing up your site and occasionally restoring your backups is so important. So, before we go any further, let's use the backup extension you installed in the previous lesson and perform a site backup. Now, in normal circumstances, you would have performed backups much earlier than this, and in fact, you would have made backups each time you made a significant change to your site. In this lesson, you'll practice testing your backup file by restoring to a remote server or another location on your local server. Use the instructions in the step-by-step tutorial which follows to practice restoring your site until you're so familiar with the entire process that you can do it in under 5 minutes while simultaneously preparing lunch. I know that you can do it. Now, this process involves 5 steps. Step 1 is to create a backup, which you've already done. Step 2 is to locate your JPA backup file and your kickstart.php files and move them to a new location on your local host or remote server. Step 3 is to create a new database user, and a password for that user so the user can access the new database. Step 4 is to run the kickstart.php file to begin the restore process. You would then follow all the instructions within that restore process. And step 5 is to test the back end and the front end of the new site to make sure that everything is exactly the same as the original site and is working correctly. So let's start with step 1, create a backup file. The first step in the restore process is to create a backup file and move it to where you want to move the website. The default location of the backup file, however, is very deep within the Joomla folder structure and really hard to find. Let me show you where it is. If you open up your Joomla server stack, go to the apps folder. You'll see a Joomla folder. Inside here is an htdocs folder. Open that up. Then you have an administrator folder. Open that up. A components folder. Then look for the component Akiba. Then look for com Akiba. And then finally, in this com Akiba folder is a backup folder. And there is your backup file. This is just too hard to find. Look, it's inside apps, Joomla, htdocs, administrator, components, com Akiba, backup, and so on. So this is just too hard to find. So before we start, let's move the default backup location to somewhere much more convenient so we can find our backups quicker and easier. So create a new backup folder or designate a folder on your computer where your backups will be saved. I usually create a project folder, in this case Joomla website, and inside the project folder I'll have a backups folder, extensions folder, images folder, and other work folders. Once your backup folder is prepared, go to the components area and choose Akiba Backup. From the Akiba control panel, click on the configuration button. This will open up the Akiba Backup configuration screen. In the basic configuration section, click on the small black output directory folder icon right here. A dialog will appear giving you the opportunity to set a new default directory where your backups will be saved. By the way, notice how deep the current backup folder is in your structure. This is just too difficult. So I'm going to click on my first icon right there, that first slash. And there's my Joomla website folder, and I'm going to select the backups folder right there. Once you've selected your folder, Click on the green Use button. This takes you back to the configuration page. Make sure the output directory has been updated to your new backup folder. If not, repeat the previous step. And when you're finished, click on the Save and Close button. You're now back in the Akiba Backup control panel and are ready to make a new backup file to restore. To do this, simply click on the Backup Now button right here in the panel. Add a short description of your backup and a longer comment. And when you're ready, press the Backup Now button. This will take you through the familiar backup process that we covered in the previous lesson. When the backup file has completed successfully, browse to the location of the new backup. This is where that change of default folders will really come in handy. Let's hide Google Chrome, and we can go right here to my Joomla website and click on the Backups folder, and there's my new backup file. What you want to do now is copy this file. This will be the .jpa file extension and will be several megabytes at least in size. We're now ready to move this file to the new location and then run the kickstart.php program to initiate the restore. And I'll take you step by step through this process in the next video.